Yo, parish orphans and retrogrades, happy Wednesday, October the 30th, the day before Halloween, year of our Lord, 2024. The Vatican has unveiled the official mascot of the holy year 2025. And guess what? It's not so holy. It is essentially a Funko Pop, an anime Funko Pop called LUCE, or Luce, Italian for light. Archbishop Fisichella says the mascot was inspired by the church's desire, quote, to live even within the pop culture so beloved by our youth. So they introduced this retarded Funko Pop called Luce with holding a stang or something. Blue-haired, large-eyed. It's Japanese art for little girls. Now that's bad optics at the beginning, right? Because the church prelates have been often accused, too often they've been accused credibly of being like groomers, and now they're making little girl art. And usually they're accused of grooming little boys. But it's worse than bad optics, because when one has a look at the author of Luce, who has a company called Tokidoki, it is a pride celebrator. There's something called Dragon Girl under its banner, and it seems to be a full-on groomer campaign. Really, really, really bad stuff. Worse than just the worst optics that I thought it might represent on Monday. So I'm going to give you a little run through who is this author behind Tokidoki. Also a Zodiac series. Do we have that picture?
I'll get that up.
Does a Zodiac series of astrology. So once again, the Vatican has the vast array, the panoply of world artists who would love to have their art displayed. And they pick this shitty, campy, kitschy bullshit that represents pride and zodiac signs. I mean, the art itself stands for Pride Month, for zodiac signs, more or less thinly or thickly for groomers. And there are defenders of this kitschy bullshit out there, as always. Look, everyone with eyes to see is just groaning out. When will we be delivered of this nonsense, Lord? But there will always be defenders of evil, or in this case, just kitsch, or just filth. So the defenders are saying things like, well, this is fun. They have a very gay idea of what is fun. I mean, there are all kinds of campy, nonsensical, smutty ideas that have been interchanged for the concept of fun throughout human history. Look at the filthy cities of the world. Look at Las Vegas. Look at Corinth. Look at Sodom or Gomorrah. So anime is being called fun for guys, generally speaking, who struggle to get a woman's attention. And this is the strongest defense that is being put out there, because now it's in the pop culture and people are banding back and forth about this, the way the Vatican wanted it to go. And the strongest defense is, well, it might be a pride company. It might be a Japanese anime company. I mean, the church is European. It's universal, but you have a European white guy, a prelate, coming out there, and he's presenting Japanese art. For all these kids out there that are defending it, let's get European white art. The way the church has a great history, an unblemished history through the Middle Ages of getting the best of the European painters. Think about Raphael. I'm thinking about the Four Stanze in the Raphael room in the Vatican. And obviously, contrast it to Tokidoki and Luce, and it's res ipsa loquitur. You don't have to be a great appreciator of historical art to understand the comical and even tragic dichotomy presented by how far the human dimension of the church has fallen, which is what they're trying to do. They're trying to desecrate the sacredness of the human dimension of the church, and even, of course, in the composite nature of the church, the divine elements of the church, insofar as they can. But they can't touch that. What they can really do is take the lofty, ethereal, human sentiments that have co-attended ecclesiology and the concept of having a church that's both human and divine, and tear them down from their cloud with pedo-groomer art. And it's really been a groomers and, what I've seen online, Zoomers tag team effort to defend this kitschy megma. And of course, they know what they're doing. So we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to give you an up close on what Tokidoki is, what their Zodiac series looks like, what their Happy Pride Month looks like, and basically just give you a sense of who this guy is. Tomorrow's Halloween. One of my favorite holidays. It represents something called the Hallowtide. Remember, don't forget tomorrow, in this white Anglo-Saxon Protestant fallen regime, how based a holiday Halloween is. We are the church, the one true church, where if a saint dies, we want to hack off his finger or his thumb. It's very metal, and we've always been that way. We are the church that has a autumnal triduum called the Hallowtide of All Hallows Eve, All Saints' Day, All Souls' Day, that I think Pope Gregory moved from the spring, the gayest and the boringest time of the year, to autumn, the most pregnant, the most suspenseful, magical time of the year, when it makes the most sense to be celebrating death, because it's a portal to either salvation or damnation. And that he gave us, Pope Gregory gave us the Hallowtide. I think it's Pope Gregory. It's based, happened in the 700s. It's so cool. And of course, I live in the reddest state of all. I got out of my blue state, I got to a red state, which is what you should do using realestateforlife.org. And it's a great place. Most conservative state, most Christian state. Unfortunately, it's very Baptist, and these people are very mixed up on things like the saints, on the afterlife, on the nature of death, on memento mori, on scary, spooky creatures. They think these are evil. If I used to have a skull on the desk, I have a skull behind me. Remember, the logo for the show is a Capuchin monk who says, in English, I'll transliterate the Latin, "What you are now, we once were. What we are now, you soon will be." That's based. That's very, very metal. Roman Catholicism is very, very metal. And remember this in Pride tomorrow, on not that kind of Pride, tomorrow on Halloween, all day long. I hope you and your kids dress as something really spooky, and you at least set out the skull on your desk for one day of the week. One day of the week. One day of the year, at the very least. If you don't have a skull in your workspace, the way St. Augustine and St. Jerome did, and many of the great fathers, then at least do it this one day of the year, because it's very, very based. So this is just a little plug for Halloween. I just love Halloween, and I think you should too. Tokidoki. Let's move on. So
Tokidoki.
Let's get on to it. So people are saying this is not groomer propaganda. Old men, now let's see. We have I just want to drop the context here. We have a pope who covered up for groomer Uncle Ted McCarrick, who and most people out there that are defending LUCE, the groomer art for pedos, don't even know this torrid history. We have a current pontiff who, after our previous pontificate, his predecessor, Pope Benedict, had taken this actual groomer, Theodore McCarrick, most powerful cardinal in the world, out of action and put him into a quiet prayer penance for molesting several young men. Our current pontiff took him out of his seclusion put him back in charge of a seminary, lied about it later, and took no accountability for the fact that he basically gave him access to men, to young men. That's the pontiff. After running through several doctrinal chief number twos, Francis finally landed on Cardinal Tucho Fernandez, the number two in the church, number two, who earlier in life published a book talking about how to French kiss and teaching grosser stuff than just that to young boys and girls, with pictured 7- and 8-year-olds that he wants to teach how to French kiss. I've read excerpts from that recently, so I'm not going to run through it now. The power contingent that gave us Francis, called the St. Gallen Mafia, is also called the Lavender Mafia. You can use your imagination why. The Pontifical Academy for Life under Pope Francis, instantiated by John Paul II in the 1980s, has been overrun by abortionists and LMNOPQ lobby. They also overthrew his sex ed program with perverted groomer, essentially pro-pedo pedagogy. This story broke in 2017. Vincenzo Paglia runs the Pontifical Academy for Life and its pedagogical efforts. And he has a huge, torrid, disgusting groomer LMNOP history. Who else? Oh, Timothy Radcliffe, who is being elevated, the most prominent of all of the cardinals being elevated at this 10th consistory coming up in about a month. December the 7th, he'll be made a cardinal. He used to be in charge of the Dominicans, which there's so many based Dominicans, you think they're based. He's going to be one of the power men in the Vatican once he becomes a cardinal. He was one of the power men at this last synod, which just closed 2 days ago. Father Timothy Radcliffe, also a huge advocate for the Lavender Mafia, and he's pushed very, very hard this line in the synodal teaching that we need to emphasize the positive elements of sod, laying sod. Yes, I'm talking about grass, of LMNOPQ relationships. The most important priest who's not a prelate in America, at least to the dear heart of Francis, is Father James Martin, who gave us the article which really formed the backbone of Monday's episode of Rules for Retrogrades. He was saying, here's what's really happening, here's what's coming. There's no longer any significant pushback after, the 2 or 3 years of synodalism to the LMNOPQ agenda under Pope Francis's pontificate. Francis is favored. Francis, remember, met with a bunch of groomers during the synod. And every year at the...
I have a picture on right now. Remember that old synod picture? That other Vatican art that was just gross, with like Jesus having his feet washed by all of the LMNO, PQRS community? I have that on the screen right now. So they have a track record of just like pushing out this.
I was just going there. That's
art.
Just where I was going. There's, can I?
I have it on screen.
Yeah. So the groomer art has a long, torrid 12-year history under this pontificate. And even at the USCCB, every year they feature the art of a famous groomer that puts Jesus in sexually compromised positions. There's just tons of gross stuff. The same Tucho Fernandez has described in print young girls' sexual fantasies of our Lord. I can't even say this stuff. I can't even say it. This is a Vatican that is riddled with, from the top down, from the Pope down to his dearest buddies there, his lieutenants, his homeboys. It is riddled with LMNOPQ propaganda and an attempt to change the existing irreformable doctrine on LMNOPQ. And that's what this synod was about, along with giving us deacons under the pirate flag of gender dysphoria, women who think they're men. Those are the two big goals, and They are in the offing. So into all this backdrop is thrown this groomer art presented by Fisichella.
That's at the bottom of the screen, right?
Is that at the bottom of the screen?
Yeah,
Okay, so you guys can look at that. This guy also has a series called Dragon Girl. Dragon Girl, which is essentially a XXX art. So, and we're not talking about this guy has in his private life, one time he jaywalked